All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee, Velez. I am here with Gabe, Goose, Heck, and Bennett, the performance coach. In this episode, we have special guest Bennett Schwartz. We cover topics that range from success tips, real estate, business performance, effective coaching, daily disciplines, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Buddha and Andrew Carnegie. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, Bennett, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to this interview.
For sure. All right, man, so let's jump right into it. So for those of us who do not know who you are and what you do, let us know.
Sure. My name is Bennett Schwartz. I'm from Philadelphia, and I am a performance coach. And what I do is I really help people bring out the best in them. Most of us, or many people, I would say, I don't know if most people, but I'd say many people know that they're capable of doing more, and they sometimes just need a guide or really just some insight into how to unleash themselves and unlock themselves. So, I work with the clients one-on-one and in group settings and really help people, help them reach their potential that they actually know they're capable of.
I love it. So how did you get started in the industry? I talk about this all the time, whether it's self-help, personal development. I was introduced back in 2006 to the personal development industry and fell in love ever since. I think I was always kind of an upbeat kind of person. But once I got introduced to the self-help books and the motivational stuff, and it just carved my life into a totally different direction. And then it just kind of led to, further, I guess, soul searching and seeking of the truth and those things. But and then so we then catered a lot of that to the podcast here, and then to a slew of other things that we have done. So do you have a similar story where you introduced to personal development? Were you just always around it? Is that just like your career path? Explain to us, kind of the background.
Yeah, sure. So I would say career path. I've been in education for the last decade, so last 10, 11 years. And just really my passion for the educational world was really the informal education. So, you have the classroom setting, and then you also have like the gym setting, hanging out with the students and stuff like that, camp. So really that not in the classroom. So I was gravitated towards that. So really just dealing with people, I would say. I've been doing that for, over the last 10, 11 years. But I would say even before that, when I was in high school, I was on my high school basketball team. And I always found it very interesting how there were so many, in basketball, I don't know if basketball fans out there, there's like, each team goes like on runs, right? And the coach is always like, all right, now it's our turn. Now it's there, and you're going back and forth. And you really start to think like, is like, what's the deal with that? Right? Yeah. And when people go on hot streaks, like, why is it all of a sudden like this game they're awesome, and then like this game they're like terrible? And the mindset, and you really start to think like, oh my gosh, there's like something that clicks during those moments. And like even like when a team's going on a run and coach calls a timeout, right? They're trying to break something up from the other side. So you start to notice that the mindset has such a huge play. And even in high school, I started to realize that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like instead of like getting down every time another team scores a bucket, like you got to stay upbeat and you got to keep going, because if you take yourself and bring yourself down, the other team's just going to smack you. So you really got to keep that emotion in check and really be able to control it. And as I got older, I realized that's not only in basketball, that's just in life in general. Like you look at all the successful people and they have it everywhere. It's in their relationships, it's in their businesses, it's in their own personal health, whatever it is. There's a competitiveness with yourself, but there's also, you got to stay focused and to really work on your mindset. I find that it's sort of an even playing ground for everybody, right? People grow up in different cultures and different places of the world, different time periods. Like we're all different. We all grew up with different things going on, but like ourselves and that competition within ourselves, that's all we can really compare ourselves to. It's like, I heard a great quote the other day. It's like, the only person who you should compare yourself to is who you were last year. And really understanding that and knowing that it's so key and so important to really do that. And the fact that you can actually work on yourself, like you can actually become a better person in all these areas, is something that's, to me, was so inspiring. And I'm like, this is awesome. I started working on myself. I'm like, if I could really help people do this also, this is amazing.
I love it, man. One of the, I have a motivational kind of a mixtape, I guess you would say. And one of the tracks is called The Challenge. And in that, I'm saying exactly what you said. The challenge is becoming a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Just being competitive against yourself, right? And having that edge, and it almost becomes exciting, and fun, almost like you turn it into a game. So it's interesting that you incorporated sports, because sometimes we find a lot of the rawness life delivers, and the seriousness, and just sometimes the darkness. We sometimes take that and just run with it, where sometimes we fail to incorporate or to apply the other things that made our happy situations to those, right? And so how do we get over those things? It's the same application as we were, using for the other scenarios that we found ourselves in. And so finding that little game aspect, not to say that anything's a joke, not to take anything so lightly that you're not serious, not saying that. But I do feel like there is almost like this, you have to have like a reset almost to regroup yourself quickly enough to not fall so behind, because sometimes we can allow that reality, I guess, to just drape over us of this heavy weight, and maybe hold us back from progressing. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I would say that we hold ourselves back more than anything else. And we have to really understand that if things want to get better in our lives, like, we have to get better, and that's really where it starts from. So, that's one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes. Like, if you want to get better, like, things got to get better, you got to get better. And it's something that's so key. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't notice that and don't see that. And you could, they keep getting stuck, and it's like, what's going on? Why can't they just break out of it? They see other people doing it, and you look at those people and you're like, what are they doing differently? And it's like, they're taking their personal development really seriously. That's what they're doing.
I love it, man. And you know what else I love? It's the daily grind of it all, right? You need it. I heard this a long time ago, and it's kind of weird, but it makes sense to me in my head that, people are like, motivation is like a deodorant. You need to apply it every single day, man, because it's going to wear off. Or inspiration, or you need to find something, because every day you're still going to be dealing with something new. And, one of the things that, when you're in a leadership position, or you're coaching someone, is, someone's always says, oh, wow, you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're so lucky. And it's so funny, because it's like, you do realize I deal with the same things, sometimes probably even worse than you, not you as embedded, but you as another person. I just wear it differently. And it's also the difference between immature versus mature, or maybe just someone starting off in a career versus a true professional. And I think a true professional knows how to carry themselves in that way, and knows how to put on the poker face or the game face, whatever is needed to overcome and win, versus the emotional person who just wears everything on their sleeves. I mean, do you have anything to say on that, or is that?
For sure. I love that, because I feel like like you said, like, people look at other people and like, how are you so happy? Like, things must be going amazing for you. And it's like, no, like, the same things go wrong with everybody. And really our attitude and how we react, that's the only thing we can control and thing we can work on. React physically and react mentally. So how are we going to take something? Are we looking at the same thing as a failure? Are we looking at it as like a life lesson? And just strategically, it makes sense to look at it as a life lesson, because you look at it as a failure, something goes wrong, like, you're just gonna like beat yourself up, and you're just gonna not progress. Like, it just doesn't, like, on a strategic level, like, you don't talk about mentality, just strategically, it makes sense to like move on from it and to really work on yourself that way. So everyone goes through it, like, it's incredible. I one time heard Tony Robbins talk about it, the fact that he always says, like, people always ask him, like, oh, nothing goes wrong in your life. He's like, the amount of employees that he has, every 30 seconds, something's going wrong. And he says, and he's worked on this, he gives himself 90 seconds on any issue. He's like, I give myself 90 seconds and then I move on. He's like, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it for me. And he's like, okay, he's different planet than most people, but like the fact that like somebody's willing to take 90 seconds to like just dwell on something and move on, as opposed to bringing them for days, weeks, and months, years. Like we just don't have the mental energy for that.
I love it. All right, so let's switch gears back onto you, your services, and what you provide. So the performance coach. Explain a little bit about maybe your Instagram page and or your website and some of the services you offer.
Yeah, sure. So I do one-on-one coaching. That's mainly what I do. So I work with clients one-on-one. We meet once a week for, we have like month segments, and I really work with them on whatever it is that they're trying to work with. I do executive coaching also. So I do work on people's businesses and really help them try to scale their businesses. But there is, most of the time, there's usually a lot of overlap just because life is all connected in a way. So really helping people, progress in whatever area it is. And we go into details. We try to figure out really what the issue is, because a lot of times people will say something and, when you get like 2 or 3 layers deeper, there's an underlying issue there that doesn't usually only pop up in that area. It actually pops up in other areas as well. So it's really focusing on what the main issue is, getting down to the core of it. And that's, I would say, the difference between a good coach and a bad coach is, how quickly and how clear you can get on those, those foundational points, and then really working on it, and then giving homework, and then making sure that they're doing it and beating them up, making sure that they're getting stuff done. Because at the end of the day, I'm in a results business, and if I'm not getting results, then I'm not in business. So it's really like following up with them, holding them accountable, which is a huge part, and really just making sure that they're, they're progressing the way that they want to be progressing.
I love it. So we've had multiple guests on our show. We've been doing this for a little over 6 years now. And every time we come across either a coach or a business that provides mentorship or I guess just guidance to individuals, consulting, they all have this one thing in common, the successful ones. And once I jumped onto your website, it was one of the first things I saw. So I'm like, bang, he got it. They're called discovery calls. Yeah. And the reason why I love this, and then I'll allow you to explain what they are and what they consist of. But the reason why I love these is because you're tailoring the service you provide to the individual or business, right? I one thing that drives me crazy is like the cookie cutter kind of application of whatever service or, what have you they're offering. Where these discovery calls are a little bit different, right? So you're tracking it down to their specific needs. And right. Without me over talking, I'll allow you to explain, what your discovery calls are and the reason for them.
Yeah, sure. So the discovery call is usually like a 40-minute session with the client, like a pre-session, just so they actually get the gist of what actually coaching is. A lot of people hear the ideas of coaching. They might agree with it conceptually, but until they actually experience it, they're not necessarily going to really understand like the power of it. And the reason why you do it is because you want them to experience it, and it's really showing them. And like you said, coaching is more of an art than a science, and every person is different. That's a little bit, I would say, different between like coaching and consulting in a way, because consultants, they'll have like their method of this is what you need to do. You just follow this game plan and you're going to get there. While coaching, taking the bigger picture into perspective, realizing that every person is different. Every company within the same industry is different. The different players are different. So really understanding that each person brings their own unique, pieces to the puzzle. It's the coach's job to really try to play with that and to really understand what's going on there, and then really cater towards that person on what they need. Because, like in real estate, I love to give them the example. People have to understand why they're investing in real estate, because somebody's reason, if their reason is that they want to try to become financially free in 12 months from now, their strategies has to be very different than it is like in 30 years from now. Right. So the same thing applies to anything. So you really have to understand why the person is looking for help in that whatever specific area they're trying to do. And then what is it that we can do to actually get them there? Because if we don't know why or what the person's doing, then it's nice. And I could probably give you some advice, but I'm not gonna be able to help you. So the person actually has to be willing to open up a little bit, which, it's hard. It's not easy, and you got to get a little vulnerable. But hopefully, we could build that trust, and hopefully over time, we could really build like a really strong bond and really help, get that success that we're looking to get.
I love it. And I want to talk a little bit about the client investment. And I'm not talking about monetary. I'm talking about they themselves investing into your services. And the reason why I bring this up is because there's a big difference. We had a gentleman, shout out to Earl Piner, who was on our show, and he does basketball training or basketball coaching for kids, which is very different because the parents themselves are investing in their child, not necessarily the child 100%, right? So the child does, it depends on the kid. Sometimes they do want help, or sometimes they're just doing it because that's what their parents, want for them. Where this is different, right? You have individuals, your clients are investing in themselves knowingly. However, I know if you've been in business for more than 1 month, every client is different, and the application of what you are providing them and the knowledge and the expertise is very different based on the application of the client, right? And can you just speak on that? So if someone's coming to you, what's the importance of they also investing outside of the monetary thing? I'm saying like them applying what you're teaching.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if what I like to say is like I guess my unicorn type of client is somebody who's somebody who's a high performer. And I remember when I first started, it was, okay, I don't have $1 million. Does that mean I'm not a high performer? And the answer is no. Some people can be high performers. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have a huge business or they have, the money in the bank. A high performer is somebody who just wants to be doing more, and they have that energy and that drive. And if somebody doesn't have that energy or drive, then coaching is not going to work for them. Nobody needs a coach. People want coaches, and people understand that if you can actually, if somebody wants a coach, then they're actually willing to put in the work and actually look to change. Because if they're not looking to change and they're not going to do the work, then like you're just wasting everybody's time, and you're not going to get anywhere. You're wasting your time, your money, you're wasting my time, like, which I think is extremely valuable. So like, why are we, I would love to help, but if you're not putting in the work, I'm like, there's only so much I can do. And I would say also the fact that within coaching, going back to the fact that there's different people and each person brings their own, piece, and how do you figure that out? Because everyone's so different. I would say that within coaching, and another difference between coaching and consulting is consulting. The point of consulting is to give answers to people's questions. Right? So somebody comes to a consultant and asks, what do I have to do to get to B or to Z, whatever it is, right? Coaching is a little different, where my job as a coach is to ask the right questions. I'm supposed to allow my client the space to come out with the answers. I believe that each one of my clients knows what they need to do. They might not know it on the surface level, but they know it deep down inside. And if they don't know what they do, they know who to ask to know what to do. So I don't need to be somebody who knows the specific industry or the specific area, because what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to ask them the right questions. And through asking the right questions, they're actually going to come up with the answers.
I love that. I love it. So on your website, you offer, it states that you offer one-on-one consultation or one-on-one sessions and group sessions. If that's still applicable, what is the difference? Are you going in, when you say group, is that to a business? Like, let's just say it's an insurance company and they have 5 agents and you're kind of consulting and something like that? Or is it just, it could be a group of 5 family members, or you're just coaching a family? Like, I mean, is there a difference?
Yeah, so I would say it's both of those. I have spoken to a couple of people who are interested in hiring me for their companies. They have sales teams and they really want them to like really get on with it. So they're looking to hire me. And then also I just posted this on LinkedIn 2 weeks ago or last week, a 6-week course that I'm giving, and it's in a group setting. And the basic idea of a group setting, and really the power of a group setting, is financially usually it just costs less. So people feel like they can do it, but also in terms of working with other people. And when you're in that setting and you hear other people going through what they're going through, and they're being open and they're being vulnerable and they're like getting it, and they're bringing out what they're going through, you're like, oh wow, I'm not the only one who feels like that. It can be an extremely powerful session. I try keeping it close knit, and it's like we're like a bond. Like what stays in the meeting doesn't leave the meeting. And if somebody has a question that they want to ask one-on-one, they could ask me, privately. But really the power, a lot of the power in group coaching is really hearing other people's answers and like realizing, like, oh, that was like, because it's funny because sometimes in coaching, you realize that was such a simple like answer. Like, how didn't I know about it? And it's like, that person was so stuck on that and they had no idea. And it's just like funny to see. And it's really powerful that way that, people can actually see that from one another.
So when I was first introduced to the personal development industry, something that stuck with me that I found true, and it kind of rounds back to the beginning of our discussion is success principles are basically the same in any profession. It's just, the application of them might look a little bit different, but it's virtually the same. And that goes back to when a person's a high performer, they also probably have good relationships. They also probably have, their health, their physical health in check. So what is that? Why is it? Why does it all always just trip over? And then I also want you to maybe apply the same thing if it's to the opposite. What happens when the person's so focused on one thing and kind of maybe loses themselves in other areas?
Yeah, sure. So going back to Jim Rohn, he says that everything has to do with everything, and everything's intertwined, everything's really connected. And if you're lazy in one area, it's most likely you're lazy in another area too. It could be that in other areas you're not as lazy, but that characteristic, that character trait is going to be popping up in other areas. So really understanding that and acknowledging that, because it's hard, because somebody could be, killing it in their business life and then like their family life's terrible. And it's like, you would think like they have nothing to do with one another, but like, no, it all has to do with one another. And, even like an example, like, your kid, gets you frustrated or gets you annoyed in the morning and he's running off to school and he's just like, make you go nuts. And like, you get to work and like, you're just like ticked off. Like, yeah, it's affected you. There you go. Like it's an easy one,
Absolutely.
So this stuff really, it does all affect one another because we're very complicated. Humans are very complicated and we have a lot to us, and we all have, we have to realize that. And if we can work on ourselves as a whole, right, really get to the core of ourselves and really work on ourselves. Like if we be more patient, right? If you can be more patient with your clients, you'll be more patient with like your spouse, if you could be, if you can make decisions quicker in your business, then you'll be able to make decisions with your family as well. So it's really, everything's really connected, and the tools that one is using, like you said, are really found across every, part of someone's life.
I love it. And it's funny because even if we're focusing now, which I would like to stay focused on the positive thing, but I find it so ironic when you have someone who's just a cloud of negativity, and it's always there's always an issue, there's always a problem. We all know these people, and it's like, whether it could be like there's a problem in their relationship or a problem with their kid, and then they go to work and there's problems at work, and it's the same is true. It's so funny though, because that same scenario reversed is the one that most people are like, wow, you're so happy, everything, you're so lucky, and you're whatever. But it's the same, it's literally the same application.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, it's funny how people don't see that, like everything's bitter in their life. So like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you're going to keep complaining about it, or you're going to, step up and really make the changes that are necessary. So yes, it's unfortunate, and hopefully those people could, be able to find it. No, not that we should be judging them, we don't know where they come and whatnot, but, be the support when they're there, but also we have to watch out for ourselves. So when those people are around, we have to know to keep away and to do our thing.
I love it. So what are some things, tools, I guess, people can use to kind of, maintain the positive vibes or the high levels of performance? Is it, what's your recommendation? Is it through books? Is it through continual coaching? Is it all the above? Eating right? I mean, what is it?
Yeah. So for me, coaching is the number one. I personally have two coaches. I have one for what's going on in my life, more mindset, and then one for my business. So I personally have two coaches that I work with, and they keep me in track, and and I can see the success from it. I spend a lot of money on it, but for me, it's worth it just because it's my life and I want to live it to the fullest. I would say, like, on a personal level, there are a few things that I try doing every single day. I'm a big journaler. I really like journaling, just writing down. At first, it just started with ideas that I've had lots of ideas, and I used to have like papers all over my house, or on my phone, I had notes, or on my computer. And it was just like, it was all over the place, but like I had certain ideas. So now I have an actual hard journal, usually take around everywhere with me. And I journal. I try to journal at least once a day. So even if it's a line or something, I try putting something in there. Like recently I started journaling about like my mood, like how's my mood during the day? Because if you want to really be conscious about something, you really have to track it. And how's my mood? Am I like, is my mood like a 5 all like most of the month? Is it a 6, a 7, an 8? Not like, where is it? And it's something that for me personally, I really wanted to start like working on. So like, okay, if I want to know where I am, I got to really start tracking it. So journaling is huge for me. And deep breathing / meditating, you know, everyone has their own, you know, way they could do that. And there's a million different ways to do that. But, you know, I start every morning, you know, with some deep breathing, meditating, and like really just focusing on like what's really important to me. Yeah, like just those are, I guess, some of the basic things that I try focusing on. And I know if I do those things every single day, then like I'm going to see that progress.
I love it. It's amazing. Another common thread we have with our guest is meditation, and it's some level of practice, whether it's
right.
a minute, 30 seconds, a half hour, 2 hours, whatever there works for them. It always seems like one of the common threads, and the guys, I don't know, Heck, Goose, Gabe, if you guys want to jump in, it's almost unreal, to be honest with you. The successful people that we have on here always talk about meditation. And it comes out somehow, some way, even if it's like by accident, or just like us right now, we're just having a conversation. And again, everyone has their own techniques.
Right.
But you know, what is the value, or why is that I feel like so undervalued? Why is that not, you would think that would be part of our, you know, and obviously meditation, depending on how it's interpreted, it could be part of a religious practice and things like that. But why isn't it more at the forefront when it comes to our education system?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because I feel like when you talk about meditation, there's like a stigma of like somebody who's like a Buddha, like sitting on top of a mountain. And like when I first started getting into this stuff, it was more deep breathing than meditating, I would say. And for me, that was really important because especially nowadays, there's so much going on and there's so much distraction, you know, just your phone in your pocket. It's not even ringing and you're distracted by it. So it's a time of my day where it's like, I'm just like unplugged. I'm just doing my thing. It's for a half hour. So, you know, some people that's short, some people that's long, you know, but it's just a way that I can really stay focused with it. And then honestly, throughout my day, you know, whenever I see myself like getting stressed, or if I see myself like not knowing what I should be doing next or whatnot, like I'll give myself like a 2-minute, like short meditation. And by doing that one in the morning, I sort of tap into that throughout my day. And it's been extremely powerful. So like, you know, just earlier, my kid was like getting me really stressed, and like I needed to like chill out for a second. So I like, okay, like I needed like some time. Like I told my wife, like I need a minute, and like I went and like just did some breathing, like refocused myself, and like came back and I was better, you know. So just having that tool, it's to me, it's so powerful because you really get so focused on it, and especially nowadays, like I said before, like we're so distracted that really having that as something in your back pocket that you can always just fall to, because you don't need anything. You just need quiet, or not even actually quiet. You just need not to be distracted by somebody else. You can really tap into that.
I love it. Book recommendations. What is like one of the best books, or maybe top 3, or it doesn't have to be the top, just that affected you or just had a high impact on your life?
Yeah. So,
is there?
Yeah, for sure. So the One Thing by Gary Keller was huge. I flew through that. I'm not a big book reader, but I flew through that. And honestly, through my personal development journey, I started reading more books because I realized I can actually read books that I want to read. And if I don't like it, I don't have to continue reading it, like different than school. So that was like awesome to just realize that. But so the One Thing was a big one of mine. Robert Kiyosaki, his stuff is just for financial independence and freedom. That's like just a huge mindset shift. Vivid Vision, that was a big one also. So I would say those three were, you know, some of the ones that, you know, pop out to me.
I love it. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of focus, especially more so to how it relates to goals and obtaining your goals and goal setting and staying focused on one thing for a specific span or period of time?
Yeah, sure. So it's extremely important, and really getting so clear on what that goal is actually going to look like is extremely important. Many people, I had one client of mine who who was working a W-2 job. He was making 6 figures, but he knew he wanted to be investing in real estate. And he told me, he's like, by the end of this year, and this guy who he owned 4 units, I would say, but he didn't like, it was like some like things next to his house. He didn't own anything big. And he goes to me, he's like, I want to own $25 million of real estate.
Well,
in the first year. And I was like, that's great. Like, is that it? Like, is that it? Like, what's going on? And I asked, like, why do you want to own 25 million? It's just like a nice number. He's like, no, because if I own $25 million, then I could probably make X amount through passive income each year. And if I do that, then I'll be able to do this. And like, we were really getting clear on the goal. So I said, the goal is not necessarily $25 million. It's X amount of income through real estate. So let's say you find a $10 million deal that did this, gave you the same numbers, the same cash flow. Like, would you go for it? He's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, okay, so we have to get clear on what our goal is. It's not necessarily the actual thing that people are saying. So really getting clear on that is extremely important. And honestly, having a friend or a coach or a spouse or somebody to really just talk that out with is so key. Sidetrack, within 7 weeks, he actually got a property $6.5 million under contract, which was like, wow. He was nuts. But yeah, besides the point, so it's really just getting clear on that and really knowing what it is that we want, because if you don't know where you're going, how are you supposed to get there? Like, you can say that I'm going to on a trip, but like, if you don't know where the destination is, like that's nice. Or like, even if you're like, okay, I'm going to go to California, like, that's nice. California's pretty big. Like, where are you going? Like, and if you don't have that clear direction, there's like, how you're not supposed to know. And I think the hard part is, and where people get really caught up with it, and this is something that I've been trying to really focus on myself, and really something that I like teaching, is that so many times, like, we have to have a goal in mind that we're going to, but on the other hand, we have to realize that if we have the mindset, more of an abundant mindset of recognizing that, like, things can happen to us the ways we don't expect them to happen, then, and we're open to that life's in a way sometimes brings us things if we're not closed-minded enough, and we can see success in other avenues. Because how many times have we tried to do something and it came from a different way? It's like, I'm marketing on LinkedIn to try to get all these things going on, or Instagram, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm in like the supermarket and some guy behind me mentioned something. It's like, oh, like, what was that about? And like, it came from there. And it's like, if I was only so focused on my social media, like, I would have totally missed that. So it's really having that mindset of being open, that like, yes, we should have a goal, but we should be open to the fact to see what path and what doors really open for us. And in that way, we'll be able to, sometimes even skip the line a little bit to get ahead without really, going through the things that we thought were extremely necessary when they're, they could have been necessary, but just based on our circumstances, they were not.
If someone wanted to get started in real estate investing, what would you recommend them to look at, to read up on, to gain knowledge in, and what would be the best approach? So if you have, I don't know, a group of people, and here's the reason why I'm asking. Yeah, I feel like you jump on Instagram or whatever, any social media platform, and you're just getting sold a bunch of things, and some of them may work, some of them may not work. I have no idea. But I just know you just kind of get bombarded with all these different, I guess, strategies on how to, become a multimillionaire through real estate investing, blah, blah, blah. How is one to decipher through all of that to get what's real? And not to say that everyone wants an easy ticket in, but what would make the most sense? Yeah,
so I would say it goes back to why you're doing it. What's the reason? So going putting my coaching hat on. So if it's to be financially free to quit your W-2 within a year, so your strategy has to be extremely different than it is, that you're investing in, for 30 years down the line. So I would say that. But let's say someone's looking to, try to become a millionaire, let's say within a year or two, like what the best strategy is. So, owning single family houses, like, is probably not the right way to go, just because you'll have to scale a lot more. And especially when you're getting off, you don't have the systems in place, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So you might have to start looking at the bigger things. So the question is, how big are you willing to go? And honestly, once you go above a certain, like 5 units, it's all the same. So whether it's 5 or 100, it's really just zeros. There are only more zeros, but so it's really getting comfortable with that and really just educating yourself in the beginning. I would say biggerpockets.com is a great resource for that. It's a free resource. You can check them out. They have a bunch of YouTube videos. They literally break everything down for you, and it's extremely clear just to get familiar with the lingo. There's one of my clients right now who I'm working with, and all we're doing is we're just going through the lingo of real estate because he wants to get into it and he wants to not sound like an idiot. So he's like, he wants to we're just talking. This is all we do. The whole session is just talking real estate, and that's what he wants to do. So that's what we're doing. And once he feels ready, and I think he's ready to do it, because you never really feel ready. But once he feels more confident to do it, he's going to take that leap and really jump into it. Full steam ahead. But at the end of the day, especially with markets, especially nowadays, right? Rates are rising and nobody knows what's going to happen. And you ask experts, and you'll have experts on both sides of the field, saying, oh, the market's going to crash. And the market's like, no, this is the best time to buy anything. So
yeah,
at the end, nobody knows at the end of the day. And if you want to follow certain people and you really resonate with them and you really like what they have to say, then maybe that's a great way to follow. And those are the people that you follow, because I don't know, it's all a guess, that you can make an more educated guess. But, one thing I like talking about when people talk about real estate, and it's really any investment, people usually talk about the risk of investing, right? That's one of the big things. And it's one of the big fears that a lot of my clients have. It's oh, it's risky. It's too risky. And they don't realize that there's another side to it. There's actually a risk not to invest. And that risk can be, your freedom and down the line. It's your family time. It's, the ability of not going to your kid's soccer game in 5-10 years from now, because you're not investing now. You're not putting the time in now. It's the fact that when you're older, you'll be, more set. You don't have to worry about it financially. Nowadays, just inflation in general, you're holding cash. That's not good. You're literally losing money. So what I like telling people is that there's a risk to invest. You're right. But there might be an even greater risk not to invest. So just having that mindset, sort of calms people down. It's okay. I need to do this. I might even lose money, and that's fine, as long as I know I'm in it for the long run. As long as you stick with it, you'll be fine.
What if to go to your, I believe it was the first client wanted to replace, or one of them wanted to replace their W-2, right? So what they're making on an annual basis at a job, and they wanted a passive income to essentially replace that.
Right.
I mean, how do you even go about that? What is the first thing you would say to them? Is it what you just said about the maybe little complexes or the multifamily units, or is it something different? Is it area? Is it obviously finances?
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I would say if the person is able to save up, so there's actually a lot of benefits of having a W-2 job while investing in real estate. So just getting a loan from a bank's a lot easier if you have money coming in. So that's just something good to know. People think oh, I want to quit my job, and then they end up having a property that they like, and then it's oh, you actually can't get a loan, buddy, because you have no money coming in. So just knowing that it's actually very beneficial to have a job. So don't just throw away your job. And also the stress is real. If you just quit your job to jump into real estate, it's not a joke. You really need to support yourself, and you don't necessarily want to be jumping into your savings. So there is a time where you are going to have to jump. The question is, when is that? And a lot of times people hold off a little too long, and maybe, it's, you have your first couple of deals, and now it's time. Okay. Now I might not be able to support myself yet, but I'm in a good, I'm in a good thing going forward. But, I would say it's getting really clear on your niche. It's really knowing what you're investing in and where you want to invest. I mean, nowadays you can really invest anywhere, but really what you want to be investing in. So if, multifamily properties speak to you, that's great. If storage speaks to you, that's great. And really understanding what it is you want to do. And then once you have a specific area and niche, it's okay, how can I scale this the biggest, and how can I try to add the most value and, be able to support myself?
So what is up with the storage unit thing right now? I mean, we live 20 minutes north of Philly, and growing up, you had your classic U-Haul locations, and maybe one or two others. Now it's literally, if you see dirt getting moved around or pushed around, a storage unit is going up. So what happened? What is going on right now? Because I feel we're in the suburbs, and every corner we pass by is this huge unit is going up with storage.
Yeah. So I'm not a storage unit guy, but I think the answer is because Americans have a lot of stuff and they need to put stuff somewhere. And then think about it. If you have an apartment building, right, that you're owning, like there's a lot of maintenance and upkeep that you need to keep, putting into the building. If you have a storage unit, it's literally just a room that you don't have to do anything. Maybe there's electricity and that's about it. Maybe some of them have like, heating and cooling. But there's like little or no upkeep with it. And you can literally just stack a million storage units in like an area. And people usually just forget about it and they'll just continue paying it because they don't want to take their stuff out. So strategically, I think people are just like loving it because it's like Americans have stuff. They don't know where to put it. Their house and their backyards are full already. And like, they just got to get rid of it. So I think that's honestly the real reason why there's so much storage going up.
I love it. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about marketing. What is your current strategy? Obviously, you don't have to give us the details, but how do you utilize and leverage social media, email? Do you still make cold calls? Like, what are people doing nowadays?
Yeah. So I personally, I've used social media. That's been my main way to get my clients. My coach is actually, he doesn't use social media at all. He's a big caller. I would say he's not a cold caller. He's like a warm caller. So like he knows the person or knows of the person. He's something that gets introduced and he makes the pitch. And he, like I said, like you said before, like you get them on that discovery call. And that's the biggest thing because you could sell as much as you want, but if the person doesn't really know what you're talking about, they're not going to know. And something that like I guarantee because I've seen the success of it. It's like after that discovery call, that you're going to get like 2 or 3 insights off of the call, which is like a pretty big guarantee that like you're already going to be doing something. And it's then realizing, okay, what's the value for that? And what is it that I need to be doing, in order to does the person really want to like make the investment in themselves and really take that, take me on as their coach?
Here's a good question that we ask all entrepreneurs. What is the, I guess your biggest, a thorn in the side of your, whatever, your ribs versus your favorite part about being an entrepreneur? So what's the pros and what's the cons for you? It doesn't have to go super deep, just a very basic.
I love the flexibility of my schedule. I love that.
Absolutely.
I've done the W-2 thing and it was great. And I had that sense of like security. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, it's a lot of people think they have a W-2 and like they're safe and they can't, they're always having a paycheck coming in, which is true. Even if they're slacking, but to think that like you can't get fired or anything like that, like that's just not the case. Like people can get fired all the time. And I remember I was talking to one of my clients and he was like debating, he had like a pretty good W-2 job and he was debating whether he should take a year or 2 off to like start like some startup stuff that he wanted to do. And he kept saying like, oh, my job is so secure. I'm like, stop saying that. Like it is more secure now because you have it, but like your boss, like you do one thing wrong, your boss doesn't like you, then like you're gone. Like, and like you're going to like put your faith in somebody else. And then too many people get burnt by that. Not that like we shouldn't, like you should just be open to that fact that like there is a lot of times that like we're putting our faith in something and it's not necessarily there. So really understanding that. So I personally love the flexibility. On the other hand, I'm an entrepreneur. So if I'm exhausted, I'm tired, like then like things are not getting done. So I got to really like kick myself up. And the fact that that's why I have my coaches that, kick me in the tush. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pressure too, right? I mean, it's on both sides. It's all up to you to make it happen truly. There's some things where teamwork comes into play and maybe a lucky situation or things like that, but you got to get up and get it. And I think that's true both ways. However, to your point, I love the folks who start out to have the side hustles or have do both in the beginning. And not just fully, cut, or burn the bridge, whatever. What would be your recommendation? Would you recommend that, kind of doing both for, a temporary, length of time till, they can make the leap? Or do you recommend just going from one to the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think it mostly depends on the person, but I think
Sure.
most people would do better off in the long run if they would transition into it. So if they would go into it slowly and really build something off on the side, especially something like real estate. Real estate is very doable, especially in the beginning when you're just underwriting and you're just trying to find deals and you're just trying to learn. Like it's very doable when somebody has a W-2 job. You might have to sacrifice some like Netflix at night, but like it's very doable, you know.
Yeah.
I would say that's strategically more for people. If somebody else had an opportunity that like was like made sense, even if they might not make so much money in the beginning, but like there's a higher, bigger and higher gain at the end, then like maybe that's better. But at the end of the day, like I said before, there's going to be a jump at some point. Like you're gonna have to let go and like just like jump out of the plane. The question is when and when not. And personally, a lot of my clients, that's what I deal with. I deal with like, when is that jump and when are they just being scared? And that fear is creeping in because it's scary, but when is the fear legit and when is it just like holding you back?
I love it. Well said. All right, man, what are some of, what does the future look like for you? Some of the things that you're looking forward to with your coaching business, possibly real estate, some things we should look out for, anything you want to share?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually in the middle of writing a book that's hopefully going to be out mid-July. I actually should have done the second edit just during this call, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't worry, I'm not rushing this call, but so I'm coming out with that July. Actually, I would give, I'll gift your guests. I would say like the first 5 guests that reach out to you or to me, say that they listen to the podcast and they want the free copy of the book. I'll give them a free copy of the book.
Nice.
So feel free to reach out to either one of us. I'll just need your info. So
Excellent.
We'll gift you guys with the book. So that's something I'm really excited about. That's sort of my whole model in terms of how I coach, and that course that I came out with like a week or 2 ago is based off of the book. So it's really a lot of overlap and a lot of things that have to do with one another. And it's more on the personal development side of, really, I would say it's a beginner's personal development book. So people are looking to just get started. They don't know where to start. It's not going to be an extremely long book because I was always overwhelmed by long books. So it's going to be a pretty short book, but to the point to give practical tips also. So, each chapter you'll be able to like go through and plow through and be able to get stuff out of that. So I would say that's one aspect. And then also I'm growing my practice. So, I have a few coaches who work under me in specific areas. So I have like a relationship coach. I have someone who's like a new parent coach, I was going to call it. I don't know. I'm trying to work on the title, but she works with like, people who have kids these ages 0 to 2, and really just helps them with that. And really I have a fitness coach that I work with who like does like online, fitness training, dietary stuff like that. So I'm really trying to, and I'm growing my personal business to really, incorporate more coaches underneath me so I could scale and have a bigger community with people who are, like-minded and really try to grow that out.
I love it. One question we ask all of our guests, most of us here are married with kids and all have multiple projects going on, multiple gigs, what have you. How do you manage work-life balance?
Yeah, so it's yeah, it's not easy.
And obviously the answer is always going to be different for everyone, but for you specifically, what's
I guess for me, I have strict rules, especially I work from home. So for me also it's I have strict like times that I'm with my family and strict times I'm working. And when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. And it goes back to that mindset. It's really focusing on where you are at the present moment. One of the things I like talking to my clients about is the ability to be present. And to me, that's like one of the biggest things. If you can be present wherever you are, you'll be able to get the most out of wherever you are. And too many times we're looking forward down the line, or we're getting anxious about something down the line, and we're not being in the present moment, and the present gets messed up. And even if we're looking forward to something, like I say, like even if you're going on a trip to like, to Rome or something, and like you're looking forward to the trip to Rome, but like, until you actually get there, like you have the flight, you have like the hotel, you have the walking around, like there's so much that you can gain out of it, but like people are just so focused on the one thing, and hopefully it actually lives up to it. Many times it doesn't live up to it, but even once it lives up to it, it's like, okay, Now what? Like, it's always like a next thing. And if we could just look to be present wherever we're trying to be, to me, that's where people, get the joy out of their lives.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so another, generic question we like to ask: what is your recommendation to anyone trying to achieve their dream or business goals via success tips? So, what tips would you give someone trying to obtain their dream life?
Yeah. Besides for getting a coach, it doesn't have to be me. I was saying, I believe in the system. Besides for getting a coach, because that's an obvious one, I would say persistency. You got to be persistent, and you got to keep going. Most people, especially nowadays, you find with a lot of the millennials, like, they're looking to get the success like overnight, and it's just not happening. Like, just throw that out of it. Like, it's not happening, and you're gonna have to put in hard work. And most people don't know what hard work means, and it's really understanding that it's not going to happen overnight, and you just have to do it, and you're going to fail, and that's okay. And you just, as long as you continue moving forward and taking that next step forward, it doesn't have to be huge leaps. As long as you just keep walking forward and taking those steps, that's the biggest thing. And I believe that in any area, somebody could be successful in it. I have like some friends who took only 3 or 6 credits in college a semester because they wanted to do well. It took them a little longer to finish, but they finished at the end of the day. And so many times we're judging each other based on the time and how long things take. And people don't realize you're in it for the long run, and it's your life, and you got to do your thing. So as long as you're doing your thing, and as long as you're moving forward, that's all that really matters. So stop caring what other people think. Stop caring what other people are saying. You do you. And as long as it's a strategic goal, you don't want to be, doing something that doesn't make sense, but so you want to make sure you're getting the right advice and you're doing on the right path. But as long as you're on the right path, just keep at it, and you'll find it, and you'll get there eventually.
Love it. All right, man. 2 final things. One, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover or mention? Any topics, anything? And then also, or if not, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate that. I think we covered most of the ground. I get really passionate about this stuff, and I really love it. And I think it's so important because we're only here once, we really got to make the best out of it. And really, we hold ourselves back so much, and to really be able to unleash ourselves, unlock ourselves, to really be who we want to be and live that life that we want to life, create that life as opposed to react to it, is something that's so key and so important, that if you can get help with it, get help. And if it's not a coach, maybe it's a good buddy of yours that can help coach you. We're all coaches in a way. We're all leaders in a way. So look at somebody who's, a step ahead of you and see where they are and how do they get there, and really just ask them, speak to them. People are nice. A lot of people are very nice out there. So it's what I tell the people in the real estate world. People are so scared. I'm people in the real estate world have to be very nice, and they'll tell you exactly what they're doing. So I think just in general, there are a lot of good people out there. So really just find those people and ask them. And, I think it's an investment worth making in yourself. So I think that. And then for your second question, I'm heavily invested on LinkedIn. So definitely find me at Bennett Schwartz on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram at Coaching with Bennett. And you can also find me on my website at bwschwartz.com. You can email me at bennett@bwschwartz.com. If anybody's interested in a free session, discovery call, or if anybody needs advice picking a coach, people call me for referrals. I don't mind. If it's a good fit for me, then great. If it's not a good fit for me, I'll refer somebody out. This is really fun. I really appreciate it, guys.
Love it, man. Thank you so much. All right, we'd like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is from Buddha. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. And the second one by Andrew Carnegie. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. The performance coach in this episode, we have special guest Bennett Schwartz. We cover topics that range from success tips, real estate, business performance, effective coaching, daily disciplines, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Buddha and Andrew Carnegie.
Awesome.
Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.